SonicState.com.
Know well and may in fact use in our daily life. In this case, live. The lemur itself communicates with host applications using a variety of different rubrics, as we said before. Sometimes you might wish to use MIDI, other times open sound control. However, a recent addition has been the inclusion of the ability to talk to standard hardware controllers and to communicate as they would. In this particular example, we're going to be using something that will look and act, for all intents and purposes, like a Mackie controller, using MCU, the Mackie Controller Universal Language. The lemur itself is a programmable interface. That is to say, the things you see here on the screen are things that we've designed ourselves. The lemur includes its own editor, and I'll bring it up so you can see it. The editor allows us to place and design objects on our interface. We can then select the kinds of communications that object performs. In this case, MIDI messages, open sound control, or by naming an object. Once that's there, we can essentially take this program, make a connection with a lemur which is attached to our computer, and when we connect, it will automatically download the program we've created, which now runs on the lemur and is ready to go. So here's an example of an audio controller that we've set up, and we're using live here. So what you'll see when I go into the mode is you'll see that live is ready to go, and I have a set of controls that I can use. For example, I now have a complete set of what you would expect to find in a Mackie controller. Here are my controls for stop, play, rewind, and forward. But I can also do some other kinds of things using this controller that a regular MIDI hardware controller wouldn't let you do. For example, Live itself as a program knows how to do various interesting things that really aren't control oriented. For example, I can switch between views on my thing. I've created a button here that lets me swap back and forth between what we think of in Live as the arranged view and the session view. And when I push that button, the audio interface responds by switching itself to go. I can also use that interface to select clips and to launch them, in addition to doing the normal thing. The lemur interface itself is multi-paged, which is to say I can have more than one controller type running on the lemur itself. So here's an example of part of my Mackie control structure here, and here itself is the mixing aspect of it, which you probably would recognize more regularly. The mixing has what you'd expect, has a set of faders that control volume, and you'll notice that the fader is connected to live. So as I move the fader here, you'll see the fader move in live. I've also got a set of pan controls. I can select a track. These are all the things that we'd expect a good live controller to do. But setting this up, by virtue of the fact that we're using the Mackie Control Universal protocol, is a good deal simpler than having to program everything yourself from scratch. This is a new addition to the lemur, and in addition to that, the new lemur...
SonicState.com.